Anthony Leonetti was born on December 15, 1919 in Sherman, Illinois, to Anastasia and Antonio Leonetti. He decided to enlist in the U.S. Air Force December 10, 1941, to further his education. He recalls his first days of service.
I did get my draft notice, so I decided to enlist in the Army Air Force, October the 10th. Well, I was living in Joliet, Illinois, and I was a type clerkist in Kankakee Ordnance, where they made powder and stuff for the World War.
After he decided to enlist, Mr. Leonetti went to boot camp.
My first days was up in Fort Sheridan, Chicago, Illinois. That's where we got our briefing, we got our clothes, and also our written exams. And from there, I went to Jefferson Barracks for my basic, and I stayed at Jefferson Barracks till February, and went from Jefferson Barracks to Boise, Idaho, to sheet metal and aircraft welding. What they done, the first thing they done, they lined you up to show you how to march, and I tell you, it was we really wasn't prepared too much, because we even used broomsticks for rifle, because they just didn't have enough rifles to go around. So that's what we used to train with. And drill sergeants, I'll tell you, they were rough. They get in your face. I'll tell you, they were rough. They were rough guys. The only thing I didn't like, you had to line up forever. You had to line up to go to mess, line up to go here, and march there. Everything you marched, you went to.
Mr. Leonetti traveled a lot during his training. He first went to Boise, Idaho, and stayed there for 4 months. He was then transferred to Alamogordo, New Mexico, which was a bombing range, and stayed there between 4 and 5 months. From New Mexico, he went to Pendleton, Oregon, from there to Walla Walla, Washington, and then back to Pendleton. From Pendleton, Oregon, he traveled to Seattle, Washington, where he was briefed on B-29s. During his training, Mr. Leonetti met his wife.
I'll tell you how I met my wife. They had a dance in Great Bend, Kansas, to the auditorium, and it was a big band was playing over there. So a soldier next to me said, "You want to go to?" I said, "No, I don't want to go to dance." And he said, "Well, come on, let's go." So I decided to go. And I was sitting in the bleacher, and there's 2 women come in, a redhead and a brunette. Yes. And this guy said, "I dare you ask that redhead for a dance." So that's 6 months later, we were married.
After his training, Mr. Leonetti was placed in the 358th Service Group to go overseas. It was Mr. Leonetti's job to repair the damaged planes.
I was trained to do sheet metal works. Say like when they got hit over in Japan, they come back and they had pretty good damage. Well, we repaired put new skin on there, stuff like that.
Since Mr. Leonetti was in charge of repairing damaged planes, he was fortunate not to witness any combat.
No, we didn't see any combat, but we did. And let's see, when I was over in Tinian Island, Christmas Eve of December '44. The Japs come underneath the radar and got about 8 of our B-29s that night. See, we had what they call them P-61s. They call them the Black Widows. They were night fighters. They'd intercept the Japs coming in at night. I used to sit out there and watch them.
Mr. Leonetti was proud of serving on Tinian, where these planes were located.
And I'll see that island was mostly white coral, and what they done, they took this white coral and mixed it with asphalt to make their runways. Made a beautiful runways. In fact, we had the longest runways in the world at that time. Over there on Tinian Island, it's about 4 miles wide and it's about 12 miles long. And at that time, we had the longest runways in the world there at Tinian Island. This is Tinian, and east of it was a channel 4 miles wide, and that was Saipan. That was the next island. And our B-29 took off with that wind, and we've lost quite a few taking off. And we lost quite a few over the target, come back all damaged. And we had and then we worked. There's 1 week there. It was 10 days. We'd get 2 or 3 hours sleep and go back to work. That's when we hit Tokyo with the incendiary bombs and practically destroyed Tokyo. Tinian Island, and there's about 350 airplanes there. That where you see that mountain like that is Saipan, across the channel there.
The beautiful runways Mr. Leonetti was so proud of were built by the Seabees.
They done all doing the runways, building the buildings. They were really good workers. They were carpenters, machine operators. Yeah, in that cane field, you see those Seabees getting ready to push it out, and they'd have a guy sitting on with the rifles on the side of the tractor.
The many planes he worked on used the runways the Seabees built.
I imagine our outfit worked on quite a few of them, over 100 anyway at least. Each island had about 300 B-29s on there. And actually there's only one or two left now. They call it the Wichita Witch and the Fifi. Only two of them left. Most of them in the boneyard.
When Mr. Leonetti found out about the Enola Gay, it had already been damaged after dropping the bomb.
Didn't get to work on it, but I got to get inside of it after I got back. The Enola Gay was wrinkled in the bottom. It was so secret, none of us knew what was going to go on. And we didn't even know when they dropped the bomb. You probably knew about it in the United States before we did. It was so secret.
One interesting fact to consider is who the Enola Gay was named after.
That was Colonel Tibbetts' mother. See, Colonel Tibbetts flew, they call it, let's see, what was it? The one was a little boxcar, Enola Gay, and boxcar was flew by John Sweeney. He was the pilot on the second one, left the ninth.
It was a great honor for Mr. Leonetti to meet the son of whom the Enola Gay was named after.
I did have the opportunity to meet Tibbetts. He's a little guy about my size, maybe a little taller. Oh, it was wonderful. I thanked him. You know, I'll tell you, if we wouldn't have dropped that bomb, you know how many men we would have lost? Over 1 million men going into Japan. Because they were prepared for us. They would have really hit us going in there. They had kids. They had kids, man with bombs, women, everything. They was really going to hit us. And they also had some new weapons we didn't have either.
Despite the excitement of meeting Tibbet, Mr. Leonetti had to endure some time in the hospital.
Well, I had an operation over there, on Tinian Island. I spent a month in the hospital. And at the time that I was in the hospital, they hit Iwo Jima over there, and they were flying these guys back. Maybe they had a leg off or an arm off, They had tags on them, and they was flying them in this hospital where I was in.
Mr. Leonetti was impressed with the conditions of the hospitals.
They were good. They actually were good. The only thing I didn't like was they had a 50-gallon drum for me to set what they call a sitz bath, They had a barrel cut in half with water in it. But other than that, though, they were some good doctors in there and good nurses.
Although the hospital was not one of them, Mr. Leonetti was fortunate enough to have an exciting, memorable experience. Well,
the most memorable thing I got, my brother was in the Navy, and I hadn't seen him for about three years, and I got a letter over there, postmarked the day before I got it, and I went to the captain. I said, "Captain," I said, "my brother's either over on Saipan or on Tinian Island." So he said, "Well, take my Jeep," and he said, "Go down to Navy headquarters." And I went down there, and sure enough, he was there over a month, and I didn't even know it. And I haven't seen him for 3 years.
Despite the difficulties of being away from home, Mr. Leonetti was lucky enough to make many friendships in his service group.
I did make a lot of friends. I was in the same outfit. That was the 358 service group. I was in that outfit for 4 years with the same fellas. We had from Midwest, New York, they were from different areas in the United States.
Mr. Leonetti was able to keep in touch with the men who got him through the hardships.
We had about 4 or 5 reunions, but I would say I bet there's not over 10 of us left in that whole outfit. Because, see, I'm 91 years old myself.
Even though they weren't exactly his friends, military officers aren't as bad as some may think.
Oh, I tell you, there's a difference between the infantry officers and your Air Force officers. Your Air Force officers didn't want you to salute them. They were more like, forget about it, They were really nice guys.
Mr. Leonetti was blessed with nice officers, but he still kept close track of the time he spent overseas.
I was in 4 years, 1 month, 6 days.
Counting down the days, Mr. Leonetti remembers his last day of service very well.
It was it a day. Yeah, when the service ended, I was over there about a month before I got to come back to the States. So what we done, we went over to operations where they had the planes that flew, and went over there, and I got a ride over to Guam. Spent about 3 days in Guam. That's about 100 miles from Saipan, And Guam is more of a lush island where Tinian was flat and prevailing wind, but the temperature never got above 85 or below 70. It was a beautiful, beautiful place.
Upon returning to the United States, Mr. Leonetti was able to use the skills he developed overseas to further his career.
After I got out, I thought I'd take about a 30-month leave. Then I got a job as a welder in Larned, Kansas, and I stayed there for about a year. Then I thought I'd come back to Illinois, and I went to work at Fiat Ellis for 31 years there.
As a result of his war experience, Anthony Leonetti learned a few good lessons.
I tell you, it made me be more friendly to people and treat the people nicely. And I figured I put my life on the line over there so we could be what we're doing today. If we'd have lost the war, you wouldn't be here with me today at all. There was more airmen killed than there was any other service, like infantry or Navy. There was more airmen killed. Because, when they drop a plane, you say there's 11 on there, you use 11 right there. One shot. And we lost a lot of more planes than what they let out. We lost, I remember losing at least 6 taken off.
Even after experiencing the stressful aspects of war, Mr. Leonetti is still positive about his service.
Just the only thing I enjoyed every bit of it. The guy said, would you do it all over again? I said, yeah. He said, how come? I said, I'm here. Glad that I got out of the service and come back a full human being.
Upon interviewing Mr. Leonetti, we did not know the challenges of war and the difficulties men and women face while being away from not only their family, but their friends as well. We learned about some of the everlasting friendships and bonds made between the men. It was these everlasting friendships that helped Mr. Leonetti make it through the difficulties of war. Even though most people believe war is only about the hard times, Mr. Leonetti experienced some fun ones too, such as when he was fortunate enough to spend a few days with his brother while overseas. These memorable experiences have continued to influence his life today. He met his wife at a dance on a dare, and because of that dare, he had 2 wonderful children. You are a very influential man in our community, and we are thankful we got to use this interview to help us understand some of the circumstances that made you the man you are today. Not only do we thank you, Mr. Leonetti, but we thank all of the Air Force veterans who served during World War II and those that are serving today.